Hello, hello, hello everyone. My name is Elise. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing so good today. And we are going to rank all of the nonfiction that I read in 2022. I read 12 nonfiction books, I believe. There might be one that I left off because I didn't rate it. Who knows? I can't be trusted. But I'm going to talk about 12 here. Oh no, I know what happened. So 4 of the nonfiction books that I read were poetry collections, and all of the poetry collections I have removed from this list, and they will be on a later list. So I got some feedback that people would be interested in seeing the poetry tier ranking list, so I'm not going to include them here, and they will be in their own video. So without further ado, let's start ranking these nonfiction books. So coming in at number 12, which, oh God, same with my horror list. First one is a fucking hot take because I think people are not going to be happy that I did not love this. And it's at the bottom because I didn't enjoy it that much. And that is Bluets by Maggie Nelson. Now, this is a stunning book. I think it's gorgeously aesthetic. And I just didn't like it. Okay, this is like the really mean thing I'm going to say. This will be the meanest thing I say in the whole video. So prepare yourselves. This is the type of situation where, you know, when you see modern art and you're like, okay, but like, I could have done that, you know? This is like a little bit of these. I was like, okay, but like, anyone could have written that? I know that's bad. I know that's bad. And I'm sure this is full of, you know, passion and deeply felt and critical things. And it just did not work for me. This is basically a series of vignettes. So you can see if I flip to a page, they're all numbered. And yeah, it's just a series of vignette after vignette about Maggie Nelson's relationship with the color blue. Sounds fascinating. And some of them really were. Like, there were some bangers in here. And then there were also some where I was like, what the fuck did I just read? Like, what? I couldn't make sense of it. I could not make sense of it, viewer. So yeah, it was such a mixed bag. Some things I loved, some things I didn't love. And for that reason, it fell to the bottom of the list. Who knows? Maybe when I'm bigger and brighter, I will read this again and just love it. But it didn't hit me where I'm at. So that is Bluets by Maggie Nelson. This is published by Wave Books. And again, congrats Wave Books, because this is a stunning little nonfiction here. All right, next one we have, ooh, people are also not gonna like this, that it's so low. Ooh, okay. That is Love That Journey for Me. And this is by Emily Garside, and the subtitle is The Queer Revolution of Schitt's Creek. This is published by 404 Inc. And this is part of their Inkling series, which are these really small essay series. The book is like very small itself. And this is doing exactly what it says it's going to be doing. Now, same with the last one. There are parts about this that I enjoyed. Schitt's Creek is my favorite show of all time, so I wanted to read it for that reason. And I love all of the queer joy that is represented in Schitt's Creek. I appreciate that. The reason why this fell short for me is I like my nonfiction, and this is personal preference. I like my nonfiction to be very research and factual based. And if you're going to insert yourself into the story, which I'm also okay with, I want that to be very obvious that you are inserting yourself and your own opinions into the story, and not to be confused with the research that you've done about the story. And this, I don't think it's clear enough, the distinction, and that's why I struggle with it. I feel like if you went into this thinking of it as an opinion piece, that is totally what it is, and I can appreciate it for that. But I went into this thinking that it was going to have a lot of research and have that laid out, and it does have research, but it's all interspersed with what I would consider assumptions or opinions, and I just don't personally like that to be all mixed in and not have a clear distinction. So again, there's nothing wrong with this. Go into it as an opinion piece, and I think you'll be fine. And also, if you don't care about that like I do, you'll love it. So yeah, that is Love That Journey for Me. Very cute book. And near the bottom of my list. All right, number 10 is a book that I read with my partner this year. So every year we read a book together and have like a mini book club and discuss the book together. It has always in the past been nonfiction because he only reads nonfiction. Send good vibes for him. That is Say Nothing, and this is by Patrick Radden Keefe, who has written lots of many best-selling things. This was best-selling. Most recently came out with Rogues and then Empire of Pain. But this follows two things. One, it follows a true crime story about a woman who went missing. She had many children, kind of went missing without a trace under suspicious conditions in the Irish community that she was living in. And that story bookends, but also gets interspersed throughout the larger narrative of the Troubles. And I appreciated that framing. I thought the dates just matched up really nicely to encapsulate all of that. And I learned a ton about the Troubles and about this case in particular. And I think it's very well researched. This is a really good example of narrative nonfiction if you're into that. The only thing that let this down for me is I do think sometimes it was so like pumping facts out in your face that it was just dry, and I lost interest in certain sections and certain aspects I just didn't care about. So that's the only reason it fell a little lower in the list. Overall, I enjoyed. I didn't hate it or anything, but there were some like dry pacing problem-y parts for me. But yeah, if you're interested in learning more about the Troubles, highly recommend you pick up Say Nothing. And this is published by Doubleday Books. All right, next one on the list is Queer. And this is a graphic history by Meg-John Barker and Jules Scheele. And this is really a theory book. So this is very theory heavy. I want to be upfront about that. And it's all in black and white. And this is a little bit of what it looks like. This is also text heavy. So like there's a lot of text on each page because you're meant to be learning stuff. So this isn't like the graphic nonfiction that you read all in one sitting. At least it wasn't for me. I read it over like a week or two, and I think that's a good way to make sure you're fully digesting all of the information. This was so informative, like extremely informative. It goes into theory, you know, historically all the way up until present day. Seeing that progression was really helpful to add to my understanding. And yeah, there's just like so many people that I wasn't aware about before that were involved in the queer movement, and so many new theoretical ideas that I wasn't aware of either. So it was very informative. I highly recommend this. This is published by Icon Books, I think. Yeah, Icon Books. I will say the one thing with this is, again, it's extremely facts heavy. So it just wasn't going to be like my most enjoyable book of the year. It's meant to just teach you about theory. So that's what it is, and that's what it does, and I enjoyed it for that. So that is Queer, a graphic history. Number 8 on the list is one that I read sort of recently and was featured in a video, and that is James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time. This is published by Vintage Books and contains a letter and an essay about the state of race in America. The letter is to his nephew, who is also named James, and the essay is more like his take on the issues with systemic racism in America and what he sees as some of the paths forward. The writing was spectacularly beautiful. I will say we've moved into 4 stars. So the ones before were 3 stars. We've moved into 4 stars. Highly recommend them. I recommend all of them, but highly recommend this. And yeah, I think is a great way to look back on our past and see what has changed and what has not changed. Some ideas on what we could do to make the world a better place for Black people to live in. So yeah, I highly encourage you to pick this up if you haven't read it yet. It's very short. So that is The Fire Next Time. Next up, we have a memoir that I read from the library. I read this on audio, and that is Inferno, and this is by Catherine Cho. The subtitle is A Memoir of Motherhood and Madness, and this follows Catherine's journey having postpartum psychosis. And I know about postpartum psychosis, but I've never read a firsthand account of postpartum psychosis, and that's why I wanted to read this. I heard it was great, and I do agree. This is a really great, hard to read experience of what it's like to feel like you're going crazy, and the level of disbelief that people can have in your condition, and just the like misunderstanding and misconceptions that go along with all of these postpartum disorders that women experience, and how people should really be more educated about them so they can see the signs, and also reduce stigma for women, because this is a real thing that happens for some people. So it follows her when she's been institutionalized, and you kind of go back in time from there. And it's really her trying to piece out what has happened, because in the beginning she does not have a memory of what has happened to her. And so she is journaling the experience of trying to recover these memories and understand why she is where she is. But yeah, it's really challenging to read. It's devastating. It also includes a lot of cultural information. She is Korean, and the ways that she is pressured by some of her cultural traditions that push her deeper into madness in some respects. So yeah, I loved it. Highly recommend it if that sounds interesting to you, and think she's just a wonderful writer, and appreciate her sharing her experience. So that is Inferno. Number 6, we have another graphic nonfiction, and that is Seek You. And this is by Kristen Radtke and published by Pantheon. This is, I think the subtitle is like Loneliness in America or something like that. It was really interesting to read this, post-pandemic, because loneliness was so prevalent. And this does a really good job of normalizing loneliness, because that is a feeling that everyone feels, regardless of who you are. And what happens when not only we accept that that is a feeling that is going to move through our lives, but also wanting to have balance with it, not wanting to have too much or too little. But it puts it in these chapters that look at loneliness through a specific lens. So it could be looking at loneliness through the radio, or looking at loneliness through the media and the movie representation of loneliness. And we'll have these frameworks for it that I think keep it fresh and exciting to read through. It is a pretty long book, and again, somewhat dense. There's a lot of text on the page. So not a nonfiction that you're going to get through in a few hours. It will take some time to make it through, but I very much enjoyed it and thought it had a unique take on what loneliness is, and the role that it plays in all of our lives. So really enjoyed it and would highly recommend. Number 5 is Gender Queer, another graphic nonfiction. I'm realizing I had a few this year, and there is still one more to come. So this I read for Banned Books Week, because the ALA had this listed as the top banned book for 2021, and I read it in 2022. So that's why I picked this up, and it was great. So this is a graphic memoir about Maia Kobabe's experience being genderqueer. And this is published by Oni Press, who publish lots of great graphic works. And yeah, it's just a memoir of coming to terms with sexuality, coming to terms with gender identity, what kind of repercussions and joys that had. Yeah, the artwork is great. It's full color artwork. And I just really enjoyed this experience of getting to see Maia's journey over time, and highly recommend you pick it up as well. All right, next one, number 4, is the last graphic nonfiction on this list. And it's a short little thing, and that is Sex and Disability. Or I should say, it's a quick and easy guide to sex and disability. This is by A. Andrews, and like I said, it's very short. Here's a little bit of what the art looks like. And this is published by Limerence. This is exactly what it says on the cover. A very quick and very easy guide to sex and disability. I would highly recommend this to everyone in the world. You should read this because people who have disabilities and or chronic illness like to have sex too. And I think this information is for everyone. You know, whether you're chronically ill or disabled yourself, there's stuff in here for you. And you should learn about the experiences of others and normalize sex in all bodies. So I loved it for this. It is so short, so like it's not going to be a deep dive by any means. It's very surface level, but that's what it's trying to be, and I love it and think everyone should pick this up. All right, we're in the top 3. So number 3 is one that I read very recently. It was in my December wrap up, and that is The Fire This Time. So I read this shortly after, not too shortly after, but shortly after I read James Baldwin's original one, The Fire Next Time. And this is a collection of poetry and essays by a variety of writers, and it's edited by Jesmyn Ward. And this looks at racial tensions in America in past, future, and present. And it's also reflecting on James Baldwin's work and, you know, again, what has or has not changed since he wrote that. And it was done on the 50th anniversary of his collection coming out. This was so good. So many things about this really made me think and reflect, and just sort of put me in an existential crisis in some regards. So many fascinating things on here, and also like so many discouraging things. But I think the nice thing about the future section is there was also some hope for the future, but a lot about resilience, a lot about, you know, Black joy and the importance of loving yourself as a Black person, even when the world does not. And yeah, I loved it for so many reasons and think there's a lot to take out of this. Because it's in an anthology, so many topics are covered, so you'll find something in here that interests you. But yeah, loved The Fire This Time. All right, the next 2 were in my top books of the year, and number 2 is In the Dream House by Carmen Machado. This is published by Grey Wolf Press. Whoo, this is so good. This is a memoir about Carmen's experience being in an abusive relationship with a woman. And, you know, she has said that she wanted to have some type of representation of abuse between queer relationships because there's not enough of that, and it does exist. And I loved it for that. It's also very experimental in form. So it'll be like Dream House as creature feature, Dream House as 9 Thornton Square, Dream House as a choose your own adventure. So very experimental form, and it's little vignettes. And I really appreciate the additional meaning that gets imbued with her memories as she puts those lenses on it. I loved it. I enjoyed it even more than I thought it would, and it was already so hyped. It's just such a real nuanced description on the page of here's the relationship. She's not putting commentary to it. It's just here's the memory, and I'm leaving it there for you to see. And I just thought that was so brilliant. So that is In the Dream House by Carmen Machado. Number 1, you know, it's my best book of the year. Here we are again. That is Hola, Papi by John Paul Brammer. This is his memoir, and this is published by Simon & Schuster. Woo, what more to say, man? What more to say about this? This is so damn good. It's funny, it's sad, and this just follows his life growing up as someone who is biracial and growing up as someone who is queer and growing up as someone who wants to be a writer and his writing career in general. He wrote a column called Hola, Papi, and it was a queer advice column that talked about, you know, dating, how to come out to your parents, all these types of things. I laughed, I cried. It meant so much to me, and I just want more people to read this. Even if that isn't your experience, he's such a good writer. If you're curious on being a writer, this has a lot for you in it. And yeah, I just highly recommend hearing his really unique voice. I think it's so great and want everyone to read this. So that is my beloved Hola, Papi. Okay, we did it. We went through the nonfiction books that I read in 2022. Please let me know what you thought of these. What was your best nonfiction of 2022? I need to put some on my TBR for this year. So let me know all of that down below, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.